Welcome to the Muscle Expert Podcast with Ben Pakulski, one of the world's top professional bodybuilders, an expert on human performance and mindset mastery. Ben dives deep to deliver the strategies of the top experts to upgrade your body, mind, muscle, strength, performance, biochemistry, and how to become the upgraded modern man.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Muscle Expert Podcast. We are about to sit down with a gentleman who has the most complete conversation I've ever come across as far as understanding your true purpose in life and how to live it, how to access it. And this gentleman's name is Kute Blackson. You may have not heard of Kute before, but you're going to absolutely love him after this conversation. This is probably one of my favorite conversations I've ever had, and I said this to him on the podcast. Nobody seems to have such a great understanding of all of the limitations we're living, all of the bottlenecks that we're running into, and how to overcome them. He's got an incredible insight, and incredible energy, and this guy's living an amazing purpose. And I don't want to give you any more insights, but I know you're going to love every minute of my conversation with Kute Blackson. So one thing I want to say to you is that this conversation around you are perfect is something that one of my life mentors told me a long time ago, and I couldn't get it through my head. I didn't really understand the idea of you being born perfect. He used to say to me, you are love. You don't have to seek love. You are love. And, you were born perfect. And then I heard you talking about this conversation, and I think it's such an important thing for human beings to realize that it seems like the irony of life is, you spend the first half of your life trying to accumulate things, and you spend the second half of your life trying to unwind all of the survival mechanisms and the traumas that you've accumulated, and then trying to get back to where we came from with this pure essence of love and joy at our birth. First of all, I think that's an absolutely beautiful conversation. I'd love for you to tell people about your story, about how you started to find this conversation with you, because your story is very, very interesting. I heard you talk a little bit about your story with your father and your...
Sure.
Yeah, I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, look, I was born in Ghana, West Africa. My father's from Ghana. My mother's from Japan. I grew up in London. Now I live in LA, so I feel like I'm a global citizen
Yes,
with no nationalities, no boundaries, just the world is one. Humanity is one, and so for me, how my journey began was from a very young age. I always felt a deep, profound calling to serve people. I felt this burning desire I just felt so much love in my heart as a kid. I just wanted to kind of soothe people and love people, and I didn't know what form that would look like. But really one thing that impacted my life, and you could say set me on a path, built a foundation, was from a very young age, probably 6, 7, 8 in that zone. One of my first memories was seeing a crippled woman crawling on the floor and literally picking up the sand that this man walked on, wiping it on her face and standing up. And so week after week, I grew up seeing blind people see, people stand up of wheelchairs, people getting cured of incurable illnesses and sicknesses. This man whose sand she picked up was my father. My father was considered a miracle man of Africa, performed miracles. That's what made him famous. Built 300 churches in Ghana, West Africa. Was a really, in many ways, an enlightened being, a man of spirituality, a man of spirit. And so that's kind of how I grew up. That was the foundation for my life. And so when I was age 8, I started speaking in my father's churches. When I was 14, I was ordained as a minister, meant to take over my father's churches. I knew at age 14 that wasn't my path. I knew at age 14 that wasn't my destiny. When my father announced it to the congregation, he had literally hundreds of thousands of people. I was given the mandate to take over. My heart sank because I knew, wait a second, something's off. This is not quite. I know I want to help people, but this is not quite right. I'm not sure quite what it's going to look like. But I was too afraid. I was too afraid to confront my father at 14. I was too afraid to tell him this is not my truth, even though I knew the truth. I was afraid that if I followed my truth, if I was really authentic and honest to myself, I would lose love. I would lose his love. I'd lose the community's love. I'd be abandoned. I'd be outcast. And so I suppressed my truth, and for 4 years, 14 to 18, I just sucked it up, lived with that, but it burnt me up inside. And I knew that wasn't right. But I remember also around age 8, when I first started speaking in my father's churches, I became very obsessed with just trying to understand life, and I read my first self-help book at age 8,
Wow.
a book called Creative Visualization by a woman called Shakti Gawain. This is pre-Secret, pre-Law of Attraction. This was like one of the original, Law
OG.
of Attraction.
That's right.
The OG or Law of Attraction books on like your thoughts create your reality. So at age 8, I'm like, wow, with a wild imagination.
Yeah.
I was like, this is amazing. If I think something, it affects the energy around. And so I started experimenting with that. And so that's what really, you could say, began. But I became very obsessed with trying to understand life. I grew up in a very, very poor part of London where it was very dangerous, one of the most dangerous parts of London, a place called Peckham at the time, and Brixton, where there were riots. So I grew up around a lot of poverty, but also I got scholarships to some very prestigious schools for free. And so I grew up in these two different environments, and one that was very poor, one that there was a lot of wealth. Sons of presidents of countries went to the school I went to. And so I looked at this reality and thought, why do some people who have everything seem to be unhappy and miserable? Why do some people who have nothing seem to be fulfilled and happy? And so this started my quest. Who am I? Why am I here? What's the purpose of life? Where do we come from? Where are we going? Is the purpose of life just to wake up, go to sleep, eat shit, have sex, have 2 babies, have a garage, a car, go on vacation, and then die? Surely there has to be more to life than just this. So what is the purpose of life? Why are we born? What is this thing about? And so this became my quest. Read 800 books by the time I was 18, from psychology, spirituality, everyone from, the Tony Robbins, the Deepak Chopras, Marianne Williamsons, to the Eastern mystics, the Maharishis, the Ramana Maharishis, the TM stuff, the Krishnamurtis, the Eastern philosophers, Gurdjieff. And this became my life, my passion, my life's path. And so, but when I was 18, I knew I had to make a decision. I decided not to go to school, not to go to university. I figured if I want to, help people with their life, I have to live life. I have to understand life. And so I decided not to go to university, which, much to the disappointment of my community, my father, everyone's expectations, what I saw was, look, there's no shortage of people in life that will think they know what's best for you, that will tell you what you should do and how you should live your life. There's no shortage of people that will impose their dreams, visions, and ideas on your life. And I looked into my future at 18, and I had a choice point. And I think we all have choice points. It's in the moment of our decisions that our destiny really is shaped. And I looked into my future, and I saw I could follow the expected path, the safe path, the path that society, my father, everyone wants from me. I'm the guy who's going to take over and take it to the next level, and I just knew that wasn't right. I looked into my future, age 20, age 30, age 40, age 50, and I saw myself so out of alignment. And it was so painful to see myself at 40 and 50, just living someone else's path, living a lie, so to speak, that I felt like it was soul suicide. And I realized I could have everything. I might be successful by everyone else's standards. I could have everything in the world. But if I don't have myself, if I don't have my integrity, if I don't have my own internal peace, what the hell do I have? And so I looked in the other path, following my soul, which was this unknown path. I have no idea where the hell I was going, but I just felt in my heart that there was something calling me. I just felt like, what, I have to go in this direction. I was being nudged and I was being guided. And so I finally had the conversation with my father. I decided that, nothing and no one was worth my happiness. At the end of my life, it's going to be my life. I'm going to have to answer to myself. And I said, you know what? I had to let go of the attachment and the desire for my father's love. I had to let go of my relationship with my father to find my own self and my own life. And I had to make peace with the worst case scenario, which was I may never have a relationship with him. But I figured if I do what he wants and live his version of my life, I don't really have a relationship with him anyway. If I'm not being myself, I'm just being what he wants me to be, that I don't really have a relationship. We have a false relationship, and so I'm going to have to live a lie my entire life. And so I decided, you know what? I'm going to follow my path. And finally, at age 18, had a conversation with my father. That was the moment I became a man. I think you become a man when you are absolutely willing to face the consequences of your actions, stand on your own, no matter what. You could say you kill my father. I had to follow my path. And it was a difficult conversation. We didn't speak for 2 years. I think sometimes people think, when you find your purpose, and we can talk about purpose in this conversation too, but when you find your purpose, life opens up. Everything is easy. The universe, the unicorns, the rainbows, everything is just smooth. The synchronicities manifesting each moment. Every second you just breathe. The universe, the angels. It's like sometimes when you find your purpose, that's when the shit really begins. That's when the challenges.
Hour, yeah.
That's the difficulties. That's when the difficulty starts, because when you find your purpose, then you bring yourself into alignment, and now you are on a course, on a path. And so life, that's when the challenges of life start showing up. And so many times when people are living their purpose and things fall apart and life gets challenging, they think, oh my God, I made the wrong choice, or universe is not supporting me. I think you have to realize when you're actually in alignment, the challenges show up to test you. The challenges show up to actually prepare you. The challenges show up to sculpt your soul muscles so that you can be strong enough and resilient enough and resourceful enough to be able to, you could say, fulfill the destiny and the purpose that you have. So I believe that every experience is just preparation. And so it was challenging. I had no family support. In a nutshell, I had this vision, man, to come to the U.S. because all the authors I'd read about, the self-help authors, they lived in America. They lived in Southern California, Brian Tracy, Mark Victor Hansen, Jack Canfield. I mean, I could go down to Chopra. They all live down here. So I figured this is the Mecca. I was going to go to India or Los Angeles. And so I won a green card in the lottery. That was the nutshell, because I had no other hope. And in a nutshell, I won a green card in the lottery. And that, for me, was confirmation from the universe saying, Kute, you are on track. Kute, you are on the right path. Came to the U.S., 2 suitcases, $1,000 showed up in the States. And that's when the challenges really began,
Absolutely.
And that's kind of what started my path. But for me, spirituality, personal growth, personal development has been not just a business for me, but a calling, a life calling.
Talk to me about when you began to create this awareness that the path you're living wasn't the path you wanted to live, wasn't your destiny, and how you created that awareness, and what action steps you took to start believing in yourself that you were able to make that change and walk away from, like you say, someone else determining your path. Because I think there's millions of people out there living that reality where they're not living their bliss. They're living somebody else's bliss. Because I say this to my children all the time. I say, if you're not creating your life, someone else is going to create it for you. And that is the simplest statement. And how did you, one, create an awareness, and two, begin to make the shift?
I don't know if I create the awareness. I just knew that when my father announced, I'll never forget, I was probably 13, 14, and I was on stage. My father announces to the congregation, my son's taking over. He's going to be the successor. He's going to take over the church, on and on and on. And my heart just sank, man. I mean, my heart, when something doesn't quite feel right, it just feels off. And I wanted it to be right. I kind of rationalized in my mind, this is great, but why does something not feel in my heart? It doesn't quite connect. And I think many times we all feel that internal intuition, that sense like something's a little off, something's not quite resonating, something's not quite right. But I think the challenge is, I think we all have that deep knowing. I think there's a part of us that knows everything, because at that deepest level, we are everything and we have a knowing. But what we often do to keep our life together, to stay in a comfort zone, is we deny that knowing. We suppress that knowing. We don't listen to that. Sometimes it's the most finest sense of intuition. And so I knew, I had a sense, I had a knowing. For me, it was just fear. And I think many times one of the things that stop us from truly living in alignment, following our path, living our truth, all the ways that we lie to ourselves. We are constantly, as human beings, it's not right or wrong. It's just something we do for survival, to preserve ourselves. It's kind of how we grew up. We lie to ourselves. We BS ourselves. We don't tell the truth to ourselves. Maybe we're in a relationship that we know isn't quite right, but we stay in it because of what society's expectations, or we're afraid of disappointing the person. But we know this marriage is, I'm not in love with this person, but we're afraid because we've invested so much into this relationship, but it's not really resonating or a vibrational match for who we are today, or perhaps we're working a job that's like, it's killing us. It's robbing us of our integrity and our passion, but we're like, it's okay. Well, it's not bad. I should be grateful, when deep down we know, no, this is not in alignment. So for me, one of the first steps to truly shifting, transforming one's life, one of the first things I had to do was I had to be willing to tell the radical, ruthless, authentic truth to myself. To me, real truth is real spirituality. Real truth is real meditation. Real truth is real yoga. I see people do, and I do it myself. I see people do yoga and go to church and temple and pray and all these mantras and what have you. I say, you know what? Just tell the flipping truth. Just tell the truth. If you tell the truth, so many of the things you meditate, pray about, do yoga about, go to temple about will dissolve. You'll have nothing to pray about. You'll just be living in alignment. You'll be living in alignment.
Talk to me about that.
Yeah.
The truth is such a powerful thing. One of the most powerful statements I've heard in the last 12 months was one of the most important integral parts of success in life is having that one person that you know will always tell you the truth, and that for most people should be their spouse. No matter what circumstance, no matter what you say to yourself, you should have that one person in your life who gives you the truth, because then you have something solid to stand on. And that was Jordan Peterson who said that. I don't know if you know who he is. He's a psychologist who's absolutely brilliant. But I'd love to tell me about the truth. And living in a world that everyone knows is so adept at promoting mediocrity and promoting, everyone wins, and promoting, hurt no one's feelings. How do we continue to speak our truth?
The truth will set you free, and I think we have to first realize that the thing that stops us from, to me, happiness is simple. To me, living a fulfilling life is simple. It's not always easy for some of the reasons you said. We're afraid of telling the truth because we're afraid if I tell the truth, I'm going to lose love. If I tell the truth, I'm going to be abandoned. If I tell the truth, I'm going to be alone. If I tell the truth, no one will like me. And as a result, we lie to ourselves. We abandon ourselves. We rationalize. We settle. So we have to be willing to have the courage to tell the truth, because when we don't, we just we kill a part of ourselves. And we know one of the games that we play with ourselves that we have to just acknowledge. I think we have to be willing to tell the truth to ourselves, even if you're not willing to take action on it. If you could, I'm afraid to acknowledge that I'm not in love, because then what am I going to, what does that mean? What are the consequences for my relationship? I'm afraid to acknowledge that I hate my job because how am I going to survive if I leave? I say, look, even if you're not willing to take action or do something about it, don't bullshit yourself. Just tell the truth. I hate my job. This job isn't right. I'm not in love with my husband or my wife. This is the way it is. This is the truth. And burn in the truth. Just sit in the truth. The truth will start working on you. The truth will start burning you up if you sit in it. It will start. It might take years, but it's only a matter of time until the truth starts working inside you. So the first thing is ask yourself, what lies am I telling myself? What lies am I telling myself? And you have to be you have to want the truth more than you want what you have. You have to want the truth more than you want what you think you want. When you want the truth more than anything else, you will be free. The key question I ask myself is ask myself and ask people is not only what lies are you telling yourself, but what do you want more than anything else? This is a key question. What sounds simple? What do you want more than anything else? If you really sit with that question, like ferociously, what do I want more than anything else? I want to be free. No, we don't. I want to be happy. Do you really? I want to be. Most of the times we don't. If you want to be free more than anything else, things will change. But many times we stay stuck. We play mediocre. We hold back because if I play small, then people will love me. If I don't speak the truth, people. And so many times we want to be loved more than anything else. We want to be liked more than anything else. We want to fit in. We want to more than anything else. And so if you really sit with what do I want more than anything else? And if you get really clear, I want to be free more than anything else. I want to be myself more than, if you want that more than anything else, you have to be willing to tell the truth. You have to be willing to speak, to have the courage to speak the truth. And yes, when you speak the truth, what I found was things will fall away. things will fall apart. You will lose people, but the things that were in your life based on living a lie that were propping up your life weren't actually really authentic, wasn't really fulfilling, wasn't really in alignment anyway. So what falls away as you start speaking and living the truth is anything that was not truly in alignment with who you are. So for me, the question, what lies am I telling myself? What am I pretending to not know? And, just being aware that there's a game that we play. The game that we play unconsciously is this game of, I don't know, and I'm confused. I don't know what I want in life. I don't know if this relationship is right. I don't know what I should do with my job. I don't know if I should stay or leave. I don't know what my purpose is. I'm confused when deep down we damn well know. We know. So to really own our power, move out of mediocrity, step into our power requires the willingness to take full responsibility. You know what? I do know. It's scary. It's okay that it's scary. I'm terrified. It's okay that you're terrified, but I know. To own your knowing. I mean, how many times have we been maybe in the past in a relationship, and we're in this relationship and we say, I'm not sure, is this person right? Is this person wrong? And then you leave the relationship. The moment you leave the relationship, you tell your best friend, I knew that was never going to work. I just knew it. From the moment I met the person, I knew it. We know. We have to have the courage to trust that knowing. So I think that's just a place to start. It is scary. It is sometimes terrifying. But, life is short, man. Life is short. And so I believe there's no time to waste.
Very interesting. I think most of us live this reality where we're trying to block ourselves from the truth because the truth hurts. And most people, tell me if I'm wrong, do they need to love themselves before they can start to accept the truth?
I think being willing to speak the truth is part of the step that will also help you love yourself. Because it's the idea, I have to love myself, then I can live the truth and speak the truth. It's actually the reverse. I think when you are lying to yourself, if you're not honoring yourself, if you're cheating, if you're living out of integrity, if you're living a lie inside, it's actually harder to respect and love yourself living that lie. Living that lie, it's harder. And so that's why I say, look, the truth sets you free. It's so simple, yet it's not easy. And so speaking the truth, living the truth is a step towards loving, because then you're living in alignment. I believe in life, you have a couple of things. In life, you have reputation. Reputation is what people think of you. You give a talk, you give a speech, you give a podcast, you do a piece of work, write a book. There'll be millions or thousands of different reputations that you have based on how people perceive you. And what I found is the way people perceive you has nothing to do with you. It's just their perception based on their own conditioning. It's just their perception based on how they feel about themselves, what people think about you, and how people treat you really reveals more about themselves than it does about
Absolutely.
You. It's not personal. It really isn't personal.
Hey, I interrupt the podcast to bring you a message about blueberries. You guys know my infatuation with blueberries is real. Why? Massive brain benefits from the polyphenols, antioxidants, nitric oxide benefits, so many things about berries in general that I absolutely love, and I make them a consistent part of my day-to-day life. Here's the problem. Eating as many blueberries as you need to see a benefit is very, very expensive. Looking around $5 to $6 per serving when I buy them fresh, and even when I buy them frozen, it's still in the range of $4 to $5 for the size of serving that I'm after, which is somewhere in the range of 2 cups per serving, and I usually have that about twice a day. So what I've started doing, probably for the last 6 months, is after every workout, I'm consuming at least 2 servings of Organifi Red. So as you guys have heard, my friend Drew Canoli started this business, Organifi, and he's doing an incredible job sourcing really high-quality ingredients and putting them into convenient servings that allow you to easily access superfoods and amazing nutrients. So Drew has so graciously offered to give all of the Muscle Intelligence listeners or the Muscle Expert podcast listeners 20% off anything you get from Organifi. But you got to act now, because that's not going to last forever. You can use the code Muscle Intelligence when you go to Organifi.com to get 20% off your entire order. And I think you're awesome, and Drew does too. So enjoy the rest of the show. When you tied, or I guess told your dad that you're going to choose to leave, you didn't know what your path was. You didn't know what your purpose was. What were the first steps you started to take to identify your path and your purpose?
Here's what I say. I didn't know the exact form. Okay. To be fair, I didn't know the format of my purpose. Like, hey, it's going to look like this. I just knew I wanted to help people. I just knew I wanted to go into the field, somehow speak, write. I read Wayne Dyer, I read Louise Hay. I'm like, this is what I want to do. But I didn't know exactly the specifics in terms of how it was going to play out. So for me, here's the key. There's this idea that we think we have to know what our purpose is in order to begin living it. There's this idea that we have to sit back, read a few books, write in our journal, and have it all figured out and put our purpose on a piece of paper, on a poster board, write it in a neat little mission statement in order to package it so we can live this neat little purpose. I believe purpose is evolutionary. Purpose is something that isn't figured out in advance necessarily, because your purpose changes as you evolve. Your purpose changes as you grow in consciousness. And so I say, look, if you don't know what your purpose is, it's cool. It's okay. Doesn't mean you're less spiritual, you're not aligned. But what I did was you have to go in the direction of your love. You have to go in the direction of the nudging, of the calling in your soul. What I did was I went in the direction. I was obsessed with personal growth. I was the kid that I would be coming home from school on the bus reading spiritual books. I was reading, I'd do my homework and then I'd go from 8 p.m. to like midnight, 1 a.m. I'd be reading, Wayne Dyer, Louise Hay, Mary. This was my obsession. So, that's probably giving me clues. So feel what lights you up. Feel what you would do for free. I would sneak into my father's church. We didn't have a lot of money. So we lived right behind my father's church. I lived in a tiny 8x10 room where we could just put a bed in this room. I didn't have posters of, Michael Jordan. I had, there weren't posters of like Deepak Chopra at the time, but literally for me, these were my heroes. So I would sneak in to my father's church in the middle of the night with the lights off at 10 p.m. And I would probably 3-4 days a week. And I would, with the lights off, I would literally speak. People don't know this. People see me speak now and they go, oh, you're such a great speaker. You're gifted. I'm like, no, it's not a gift. I spoke for 20,000 hours before I was 18. I would sneak into my father's church in the middle of the night with the lights off. And I would visualize and I would speak to the empty chairs, imagining people laughing and crying. And I'd imagine I was in auditoriums and stadiums and hotel rooms and ballrooms. Like people's lives were transforming in front of me, even though there was no one there. And so you could say I was following my purpose. So I would say, if you don't know what your purpose is, go in the direction. Go in the direction of what lights you up. Go in the direction of what you would do for free. I would do this stuff for free. I started doing this stuff for free. Go in the direction of what you would do for free, what turns you on, what lights you up, what brings you alive. What I found is when you take a step, don't try and figure it out up front. Take a step. When you take a step, look around. Life will then reveal to you what's next. We try and figure everything out from this position, but we can't see what's over there in that position. When you take a step, life reveals itself. You take another step, life reveals itself. You take another step, life reveals itself. Before you know it, a year, 2 years, 3 years, you will actually live into your life purpose, not figure it out. You will live into it. Look at Oprah. How could she figure out her life purpose up front? Look at Obama. How could he have figured out he was going to be the president of the United States? So we have to live into it. So a couple of practical things I would say for those that are trying to figure out their life purpose. Number one, what do I love? What do I love? What turns me on? What brings me alive? Number two, what specific skill sets do I have? Actual, tangible, real skills do I have based on my craft, based on what I've studied, based on my experience, based on what I've done the last 10, 15 years? What real, tangible, valuable skills do I have? Number three, I would invite people to look at what problems, because we all have gifts. What are my gifts? What problems am I uniquely able to solve? What problems am I just naturally, innately gifted at solving? Some of us are great at numbers. Some of us know how to get people in shape and help people lose weight. Some of us just have a knack for like technology. It just comes to us easy. And because it comes to us easily, we often don't value what we can do easily. We think, that's nothing. No, but for someone else who's not good at fitness or numbers or spirituality or, science or whatever it is, our ability to offer them what we're good at is actually valuable for them. And I believe that, I tell people, don't chase money. When you're thinking about purpose, don't just think about what can make the most money, because at the end of your life, you take none of it with you. Don't chase money. Focus on adding value. When you add value, for me, money follows value. Money is an exchange and a function of adding value to people's lives. And adding value is when you're able to solve someone's pain, problem, or challenge. When you're able to solve someone's pain, problem, or challenge, you add value. When you add value, money is a energetic byproduct of your ability to add value. So focus on adding value. So what are the unique gifts that you have and the problems that you're able to solve? The last thing I'd say, if someone's figuring out their purpose, is look at what group of people do you naturally resonate with? What community do you feel a connection to, an affinity to? It doesn't have to make sense. Maybe you have a connection to teenagers. Maybe you have a connection to orphans. Maybe you have a connection to blind people. Maybe you have a connection, maybe it's animals, whatever. What group or community do you feel a connection to? I believe if you have a connection to that group of people, you have a connection for a reason. Your soul has a connection for a reason. That might show you who you can serve and where your purpose lies. So for me, I just followed the flow, man. I followed the impulse. And so I didn't know what it was going to look like, but one step led to the next step. I came to the US, showed up. That led me to join a multi-level marketing company that had all of Les Brown, Brian Tracy, that had, all of these authors involved. That led me to meet Jim Rohn. That led me to meet seminar promoters. That led to the next step. I started promoting seminars, started honing my skills. I was speaking 2-3 times a day in sales organizations for free to just promote seminars. That led to a manager of a car dealership saying, "Hey, do you speak? We've heard Les Brown 50,000 times. You're interesting. Can you come and give a talk? How much can we pay you? $800 to speak to our team?" Sure, I speak. That led to me speaking. That led to someone saying, "I need a coach." I'm like, I coach people. Yeah. And that led to the next thing. That led to my first client, which led to the next client, which led to, it was just an evolutionary process that unfolded and changed. And now my purpose has evolved in a whole different way. And I get to travel and expand and impact lives.
Amazing, man. You're doing awesome stuff. Now, for someone who's sitting home saying, I know I'm not living my purpose, I know I'm not living my truth, but yet I have all these other things that are holding me back. And, the stories I tell myself as to why I can't change. What do you say to those people who want to make changes, but feel as though there's something that they can't leave?
They can't leave their job, you're saying?
Yeah, there's something holding them back, whatever it may be, right? It could be the stories they're telling themselves. It could be the job. It could be their relationship. It could be their family.
So that's a big question, because there's not a simple cookie. I just want to say up front, there's not a simple 4-step answer to that. There's many reasons as to. I just want to back up if you can. There's many reasons as to why we are held back. Look, we're born free. You talk this conversation. We're born perfect. We're born whole. We're born free. We're born in touch with aliveness. You look at a child, a little baby who, you said you have kids, they jump on the table. They're not thinking, I'm going to hold back. I can't sing. I'm not Celine Dion. I'm not Bruno Mars. The kid will just jump on the table and sing and express and shout and love. Kids aren't just held back. They're not thinking, am I fat? What do you think? They just run around naked. They don't get until shit happens, until they fall down, until their parents say, you're not good enough. That sucks, And so slowly, we're born free. We're perfect. We're infinite beings. And then we meet our parents, and then we have life. and our parents are just doing the best that they can do based on their conditioning. It's not intentional most of the time. So we're born free, we meet our parents, and slowly, in response, 2 things happen in terms of why we get stuck. In response to our environment, maybe we face pain, trauma, hurt, abuse, divorce. Maybe there was neglect. So we slowly start learning all sorts of mechanisms to shut down, disconnect, and not feel. So we start to contort ourselves into a certain shape, ultimately to not feel the pain of maybe our dad was screaming at us, maybe they were abusive, maybe they ignored us and it was painful. So in order to not feel the pain, we start learning all sorts of mechanisms to shut down, disconnect, not feel the pain. So we start to disconnect ourselves from that natural, flow of energy that comes through, right? Or we learn to, we go into the world as young kids and we slowly learn to, oh, who do I need to be in order to be loved by my dad? Who do I need to be in order to, if I'm loud, I get hit. So let me just be quiet. Let me be shy. Let me shut down. Let me just, be the good girl, the good boy, whatever it is. So we start learning all sorts of mechanisms, survival strategies. We start developing all sorts of masks to get loved, be approved, fit in. For me as a child, I learned to be the good son, the perfect one, the independent one. The preacher's kid. So we start developing all sorts of roles and masks. And those roles and masks are designed to help us avoid pain, to get love and be approved. And we then identify ourselves as these roles and masks, thinking this role, this mask, the good son, the independent one, the funny one, the shy one, thinking that's who we really are. But I like to tell people, if you're listening and wondering, I like to ask people, is who you have become, is who you are, who you really are? Or is it simply who you've been conditioned to be? Because the more we identify ourselves as this role, this pattern, this mask, this person that we have been conditioned to be, the degree to which we're conditioned is the degree to which we don't have the freedom to really be free. Then we're blocked. Then we're stuck because we end up living inside of the prison of this story, the prison of this conditioning. So I want to just invite people, question, is who I am, who I really am? Is this belief really real? Is it really mine? Does it really belong to me? Because many times who you are is not really who you think you are. It's just who you've been conditioned to be. It doesn't really determine your truth. But we have been hypnotized, into believing, no, this is me. No, it's not necessarily you. It's just conditioning. So we have to be willing to begin first questioning our conditioning, because if we live inside of that, we live limited. If we live inside of that, we don't express ourselves fully. We do hold back. We don't take the step, And then we start believing our thinking. We start believing those thoughts that are based on the identity. So I'll just throw out to people, you are not those thoughts. Just because you have a thought in your mind, just because we have 65,000 thoughts a day, but just because you have a thought in most of those thoughts, by the way, are the same as yesterday, the same as the day before, the same as the day before. Most of those thoughts have been passed down to us from our grandparents and our great-grandparents, and most of us aren't even thinking our own thoughts. We're thinking the thoughts of our ancestry and our generation. So we have to realize, just because a thought is in your mind doesn't mean it's real. Question your thoughts. You are not your thoughts. You are so much more. You are not those stories in your head. Those stories are just things that have happened to you. So most of us, we live limited and mediocre because we don't question ourselves. We don't question our mind. We take our thoughts, we take ourselves to be who we really are. So that's just kind of one thing I'll say. The second thing I'll say is, if you're stuck somewhere in a job and you're not leaving, if you're in a relationship, whatever it is that you're not making the move, here is my motivational tip for the day. If you're working or doing something and you're like, but I'm afraid, but I want to do this thing, I want to launch this thing, and you're not, here is my motivational tip for the day. And I want you all to remember this in your moment of fear. Hopefully this will be motivation. You are going to die. You are going to die. To feel your death right now, you are dying. Life is short. None of us know when that moment is going to come. Me, you, Bob Marley, Bruce Lee. I know that, a lot of the biohacking guys say, hey, we're going to live forever. The point is, Jesus died, Buddha died, Muhammad Ali died, freaking Mother Teresa died. And if they die, likely you and I are going to die. Maybe we'll extend our life to 180 years, but the reality is, this body is going to expire at some moment, at some point, at least in this form. So it's not a morbid thing, but if you embrace that and you face your death, you make death your friend, you go, okay, I'm going to die. And you feel your death each moment and you embrace it. Hopefully inspires you to move through that fear. It inspires you to say, screw this, I'm going to take action. To hell with my fear, I'm going to move through. But the fact is, if you don't feel some fear in life, chances are the life you're living is too small. If you don't feel some fear in life, if you think of your vision and go, I want to do this vision. Oh, it's so easy. I could do that in my sleep. Chances are your vision and your dream is actually too small.
Yes.
You need a bigger dream and vision. Your dream and vision should kind of scare you a little bit. Your dream and vision should make you go, holy, whoa, how is this going to happen? It should call you forward to the next level. And so embrace the fear, but embrace your death. Feel your death. And when you're afraid, ask yourself, this could be my last day. Wow, feel that. Because when we die and when we meet our maker, whatever you believe, God, universe, energy, you can't go to God and say, hey, God, I wasted 5 years, God, in that relationship. Can I get a refund? God's going to say, no. I wasted 3 years in that job I hated. Can I get a refund? It's gone. So when you really feel your death as motivation to live fully now, hopefully that inspires you through your conditioning, through your BS, through your stuff to say, now, this moment right now, let me make that phone call. Let me ask that girl on a date. Let me dive into that relationship and love even more fully. Let me open my heart, because the bottom line, if I hold back, I'm going to die. If I give everything, I'm going to die. Whatever it is, we're all going to die. So how do I want to live this moment so that I'm ready when that moment comes?
Kute, this is the most complete conversation I've ever had with anybody around this topic, right? This whole idea of what is the purpose of life and how do we live our greatest life? And that's the frame of my entire podcast, man. You do an incredible job.
Awesome.
What are some, truthfully, I'm not blowing smoke, what are some of the daily practices you can recommend for people to start implementing this mindfulness, this awareness, and then start integrating all of these recommendations you're making?
Yeah, daily practice. I mean, I'm going to start from like the mundane, hey, freaking exercise. Yeah. I mean, I would say exercise every day. I exercise 7 days a week. Because, when you have energy in your body, and you can have vision and ideas, but if you don't have energy in your body and you feel like shit, doesn't matter if you meditate, pray, chant, do whatever. If you don't have energy to be able to channel and embody and execute the vision you have, doesn't mean anything. So exercise, move your body. There are times in my life when I first came to the US and I felt so alone. I felt so depressed. I felt like, oh my God, I felt like, what am I doing? I felt just scared out of my mind. But one thing that kept me going was exercise, moving my body. It just shifted my mindset, shifted my physiology. So that's one thing. I'd say meditate, connect to source, take time every day to unplug from the TikTok busyness of the world, tune into your spirit, listen. The other thing I kind of touched on is the truth. The truth. Every day, take time to sit with, what is my truth? What lies? Here's the questions. What lies, but do it like a practice. Do it like a yoga. What lies am I telling myself? Feel it. What lies am I telling myself? What am I pretending to not know? Pretending to not know. Because I know, what am I pretending to not know? What are the lies costing me? And be willing, here's the key, as a practice, be willing to feel the pain. Many times you're like, yeah, it's, I hate the job, but it's okay. No, it's not. Feel it. If you really feel it, it's like, ouch, it's painful. But often, as a way to perpetuate our reality, we kind of like, oh, yeah, I hate my job. I hate my reality. I hate this experience. Let me just go on social media and distract myself from my feelings, because I don't want to feel what I feel. Because if I feel what I feel, then I might have to do something about it, and it's too painful. So feel the pain that you feel, the dissatisfaction that you feel is simply a signal. Do not deny. Use it as motivation to take action. Feel it. Then ask yourself, what's the worst that can happen? Make peace with the worst. The worst for me is I lose my relationship with my father. But if I live a lie, I don't have a relationship with him anyway. I just have a false relationship. So I had to make peace with what's the worst that can happen. Many times, the worst case scenario that we make up in our minds of really pursuing and following our dreams, stepping outside of a comfort zone, most of the time, it never happens. Most of the time, even if it does happen, we can deal with it and we will come through it. So make peace with the worst case and ask yourself, what's the best that might happen? Because we're so focused on the worst, we forget, well, yeah, maybe I might leave this person, but I might actually have now the opportunity to meet my soulmate. Maybe I'll leave my job, but maybe I'll actually find an aligned life work and purpose that will light me up and make me happy for the rest of my life. Sometimes things not working out and sometimes things falling apart is actually grace of the universe. It's a blessing. Sometimes the best thing that can happen for us is things don't work out, because it forces us to dive deeper. It forces us to course correct. There's a few reasons why things don't work out. Number one, if you're pursuing your dream and you're feeling like things aren't working out, it's not bad. It's not the universe doesn't love you. There's a few. Here's a couple of reasons. Number one, what you think you want is not really what you want. It's not authentically what you want. It's just what you thought you wanted based on who you thought you were, who you thought you should have been, living someone else's life. It's not your authentic vision. So if that's the case, let the failure, let the resistance from the universe take you deeper in honesty and course correction. Number two, it's just not the right timing yet. You're pursuing that vision, the dream. It's not ripe yet. It's not the season yet. It's not the timing of the universe. Everything has a season: the summer, the winter, the autumn, the spring. Everything has its right season. So we have to learn to trust the divine timing of the universe. The third reason I found sometimes is you've been given a vision, but dreams, I believe, are evolutionary. The dream that you've been given, sometimes you're given a vision at a particular stage in your life, but we aren't actually ready yet. So the dreams, the pursuing of the dream takes you on a journey that actually causes you to evolve, to become the person. And so if you haven't manifested the dream or the vision yet, rather than complaining or being a victim or feeling disempowered, go, okay, what lessons do I still need to learn? Who do I need to become? Because the dreams are evolutionary in nature. And lastly, perhaps you just have the wrong strategies. You're going north when you should be going south. And so those are a few things.
One of the most interesting things that I've heard that you do is you take executives or anyone, typically wealthy people is what I've heard, and you take them to a retreat. Can you tell us about that? So you're taking them to, go ahead.
Sure. Okay. So what I used to do was this thing called the Liberation Experience in India. This is kind of one of the reasons I got known. Basically, I don't do that anymore. It's what my book, You Are the One is based on. But just in a nutshell, I used to take one person to India, a leader, a visionary, someone that wants to impact the world. I take away your money, take away your passport. You have a backpack, a pair of clothes, no idea where you're going, give up all control. I make you sign your will in case you don't come back. I make you write letters to everyone in your life in case you don't come back. I did 19 of these journeys. Luckily, everyone came back. And I craft a intensive journey that puts you in situations, that trigger situations, that puts you up against your greatest spiritual, mental, and emotional limits. Because we think we're free, but the moment you take away someone's cell phone, clothes, makeup, bank account, whatever it is, all those things we identify as a sense of self. Then the question is, who are you really? You look at Mandela, right? Nelson Mandela, who was put in 27 years in prison. 27 years in prison. He had to access something inside of himself to keep him sane. He had to access an inner freedom inside of himself in order to stay conscious. So to me, what is that? To me, real freedom is accessing a dimension of your being. Real freedom is an internal experience that cannot be taken away. So my intention is to create a journey. It was a 12-day journey to create a journey in India, planes, trains, automobiles. We're in, 14 cities, not sleeping at all, in slums, in temples. And I'm really using India as a backdrop to transform people. And it was radical. I mean, people can read a little bit about the journey in my book, You Are the One. But what inspired from that was I do a group trip to. People kept asking, "Can you take a group to India?" I mean, India is crazy, especially the way I do it. And so years ago, I created a transformational immersion seminar training in Bali, where I take 20 people, 18 to 20 people, and these are some of the most amazing people in the world. We've had politicians, some of the biggest pop stars, celebrities, entrepreneurs, a lot of major entrepreneurs, billionaires, moguls, everything in between. But each person feels a deep calling to serve humanity, a deep sense that they are here for a reason bigger than themselves. And I use Bali as the seminar room with the intention of, I create processes and experiences over the course of 12 days to find out where are your deepest limitations, where are your deepest blocks, where are your deepest limitations on loving, on giving, where you play small. And I create processes that show you where you're playing small, where those limitations are, where those blockages are. I expose them, and I create processes that help you move through those so that I can catapult you forward into living your most authentic self. And that, I do that in Bali, and it's a really special immersion experiential training twice a year.
Amazing. That's super interesting. Do you have any specific integration modalities? Because there's so many these self-help retreats or these self-development retreats that you go and you get inspired for a certain number of days, and you come back, and the integration is always the hardest part, right? You come back into that, in that set and setting, you come back into your home and your relationship or your business or your whatever, and you become the same person you were in the past. I know I've attended a number of these events, and you come back and it's very hard to integrate. Do you have any strategies for integration?
Well, there's a lot that it's a little difficult to share some of them because some of them may not make sense based on what I do is a very specific process. Understood. What I do is like a soul surgery. It's like a surgery, And so one of the reasons, I think you said something important. One of the reasons that people go to things, number one, they go to things, they get motivated, they get pumped up, but nothing really changes. It's like rearranging furniture. The reason is you rearrange furniture, but you have the same house. You didn't really shift the foundational fabric. If you paint a tree brown, that doesn't. You still have it's still an old tree. You have to water the roots. So really, what I do, my work is not really an outside-in approach, which a lot of people do. Like if you walk this way, if you adopt this belief, if you adopt this idea, then you transform. That's not transformation. Transformation is a fundamental shift at a deeper level of your being. So really, I create a process that helps you transform from the inside out. When you really clear stuff, emotions and baggage from the inside, and really release things from the inside out, then it's much more lasting, than it just lasts for a week or a month. And so my approach is a little different. It's really organic and from the inside out. And then, yes, I do help people specifically integrate in.
So Kute, for all of my listeners who want to start integrating all of these thoughts and theories and actions into their life, where should they go on your site or in your book? What's the next line of attack?
Wow. It's been fun having the conversation with you. If anyone feels inspired by this conversation, look, my passion is, look, I'm in this for love, man. For me, I've been called to transform people's lives, and I'm privileged to do it on a global level. So if anyone feels inspired by this conversation, I would love to serve you in some way. A couple of resources. You can go to my website, kuteblackson.com. That kind of gives an overview. If you feel like you are someone and you feel like you have a big purpose, but you feel like you are ready to break through to your next level and you are ready now, then I would invite you to go to my other website, www.boundlessblissbali.com, boundlessblissbali.com. There you'll find out all the details about the 12-day immersion I do in Bali in July and December. It's life-changing, it's transformational, and it's unlike any seminar on the planet. I mean, it's deep. Definitely, folks, check out my book, You Are the One. My book is inspired by my journeys to India, so I did the best I could to kind of weave in strategies, ideas, and take you on some of the journey so that no matter where you are in your life, you can go through some of the transformation. And I share some of the best techniques in that book as well. So you can get it on Amazon or youaretheonebook.com. People can find it there. And just hey, send me an email, send me a message. Let me know how you enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you. Are you looking to do any one-day seminars or two-day seminars around the world? Like an easier entry point than a 12-day?
Yes. Yeah, I do a 3-day event in LA twice a year. This one actually specifically for women. It's called the Man Breakthrough Experience. So women can go to www.themanbreakthroughexperience.com. I also do evening intro events and one-day things. I'm doing things in you can go to my calendar. I do things in Costa Rica. I'm doing things in LA, event called All Lights On. So I would say go to my website, check out my calendar. Awesome. Come find me, come meet me, come give. I have a big hug waiting for everyone.
I'll tell you, man, I don't know if this resonates as much with everyone else as it does with me, but no conversation I've had, probably in my entire life, has resonated more than this with me. So I'm extremely grateful, man, and I'll be the first one to buy your book and promote it for you. So, Kute, thank you so much for your time, man. I'm truly grateful.
Been a pleasure, man. Been a real pleasure.
Yeah, you're great at this, man. Thank you so much.
Awesome, brother. Thank you. It's been fun.
Thanks, Kute.
Join us on benpakulski.com to learn the cutting-edge techniques to take control of your body, your brain, and create your greatest life.
This podcast is for information purposes only. The statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Ben Pakulski and the producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. This podcast may contain paid endorsements or advertisements for products or services. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.